The BC Civil Liberties Association launching a lawsuit against the federal government, alleging it has spied on Canadians. The group says the Communications Security Establishment Canada, or CSEC, which we're all of a sudden hearing a whole lot about, has violated charter rights by intercepting private communications. Joining us now to talk about this, Michael Vaughan, the Policy Director for the BC Civil Liberties Association, and Steve Anderson, the Executive Director for OpenMedia. Thank you both for joining us tonight.
Nice to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Michael, let's talk about this lawsuit and the proof your organization has that this is actually happening, because there are, I would suspect, thousands of Canadians who don't believe the government is spying on them.
It's a very interesting situation because we have an institution that is shrouded in national security secrecy. So the question of what do we know is a very important one. What we do know is that the oversight mechanisms for this agency are wildly inadequate. We know that they have the power to spy on, if you will, Canadians who are communicating digitally, because this is a signals intelligence agency, with anyone outside of the country, which is basically every single Canadian is going to have a friend, a business associate, or someone else outside of the country that they communicate with. So there's not even a question that CSEC is spying on Canadians. The question has to do with their justification, with the oversight, and with the sweep of what they were doing. This is an agency, after all, that is working hand in glove with the NSA that we've been hearing about since June in the post-Snowden revelations in an ongoing fashion. We know that that agency had promised that they weren't spying on Americans and indeed did not target them, and that has not proved to be the case. There are many things that we don't know about what CSEC is doing, but we say that even the fact that we cannot know that is unconstitutional.
Right, but Steve, isn't there room in our world these days for some form of vigilance on the part of government agencies to be looking for potential terrorists, and they aren't all walking around waving signs saying, hey, follow me, I'm a terrorist, so you have to do that by eavesdropping or watching?
Sure, but I mean, the RCMP and CSIS also have a duty to keep us safe, and they do so with oversight, and they need to get warrants. And what's happening with CSEC, like, let's be really clear, we're talking about an agency that has the power to monitor any Canadian at any time without a warrant. Okay, and basically, I think that Canadians want to know how many of us have our information stored in these giant databases, and why is that the case? And what information do they have? You know, what sensitive information do they have on us?
Right, but they don't need a warrant. They do need permission from the Minister of Justice, I believe. So, Michael, is that not enough? I mean, one would suspect then that officers at CSEC would take their cases to the Minister of Justice, who would then be the overseer, who would determine whether the spying can take place.
Yes, it's wildly insufficient. We would never say that the minister is an independent arbiter, which is what the courts do when we go to a warrant. We need independence in order to have that properly adjudicated. But further, we have a single real oversight mechanism, which is a commissioner that has a very small office to look at this very vast empire of surveillance. And that commissioner has been signaling for years that there is a dispute about the interpretation of the law. That commissioner, who can say very little publicly, again, because of national security secrecy, has been signaling that there has been a problem with overbreadth for some time. So we have concerns that when the single oversight mechanism has been pushing the button to say, please, somebody look into this, and we have no means of doing that outside of a court challenge, it's obviously time, in light of the revelations of what this similar association has been doing in the U.S., to say, Canadians need to know now.
What are you hoping this court case will achieve?
Well, we want the laws revisited, clearly. They've always been inadequate. Now that we have a better idea that we are not operating, just to pick up on your question to Steve, we're not operating in the case of a secret mission. Obviously, spies are going to have secret missions. But what we essentially have here are secret laws, secret interpretations of the laws. The minister is not disclosing what he or she has authorized. So the real question here is about the system writ large and how it has the potential for abuse, and we're very concerned about those abuses.
Right, but already we are suspicious. So even if those laws are tightened up, what's to say the people doing the spying and the approval, and it was the Minister of Defense, actually, not the Minister of Justice, I misspoke earlier, what's to say that they will follow those laws?
Well, I think if you have appropriate oversight, if you have parliamentary oversight, I think that we'll at least have more of a sense of accountability, and I think we'll be able to, rest more assured that they're acting within what Canadians want. We'll have more information. There'll be an actual debate about what they're doing, and I think that right now it's basically, as Michael was saying, they're basically operating in a vacuum. And I think that Canadians just have a right to know what they're up to, and I think there's ways to do that. And look, let's also think about financial accountability. The government is going to be spending over $4 billion to house CSEC spying operations. They're going to have the most expensive government building in Canadian history, and there's almost zero accountability in terms of how that money is spent. And I think, at times when Canadians are having trouble making ends meet, I think that we, at that basic level, taxpayer money, we deserve some accountability there.
We took a camera out to the street today to ask people what they thought about spying allegations. Have a listen to what some folks said. Do you have a sense that your phone conversations, your computer conversations are being watched, listened, heard? Are you worried about that?
I can't say that I am. Maybe I'm a trusting person, but I don't have that sense at all. No, and I know some do, but it's not my experience, anyways.
So, would you be okay with the government looking into those kind of things, spying on you, if it was in the sake of national security?
I don't have anything to hide, so.
I think there'd have to be some rules so they don't abuse that. But
can we trust them though to follow the rules?
No, it's tricky.
Would you be willing to let the government look at your emails, your texts, if they were doing so in the sake of national security?
I guess so. I don't really have anything to hide, so yeah.
So it doesn't bother you that somebody in Ottawa might be looking to see where you are and who you're texting and what you're saying?
I guess it's a little bit of an invasion of privacy, so a little bit, but I don't know.
Well, Michael and Steve, you heard those people there. Nothing to hide. I don't have anything to hide. Do you think Canadians are naive?
Well, for one, the question might be pitched at a different level entirely to get at what Canadians care about. Many Canadians feel that they are so unobtrusive that nobody would be interested in the gathering of their data. And yet if you ask them, do you care about a free press? Do you want to know if your government is committing abuses or there's corruption? Does it matter to you that whistleblowers have protection and that journalists can protect their sources? Canadians say yes, because they see something that is more likely to attract that kind of vigilance, that kind of inquiry from the government. So on an ordinary level, most Canadians feel that they are not going to be the target of such situations. But the institutional level is something that does concern Canadians deeply, so we have to explain this in ways that make this real for them.
Yeah, I would add to that. If you ask Canadians if they want some basic rules and accountability around this, and I think that's what I heard some of the people say on camera there, was that they would like there to be some basic rules. And we put up a pledge on our website today to support the BCCLA's case and ask Canadians to sign on to that pledge at OpenMedia.ca, and thousands of people across the country in nearly no time have done so. And I think one reason they're doing it that we haven't talked about yet is that this government has already had 3,000 breaches of citizen data in recent years, affecting over 725,000 of us. So our data is not safe in these databases, and I think when you remind Canadians of that fact, they get a lot more concerned. I think it's making us less safe. It's making our sensitive private information more exposed to cyber criminals and just, carefree bureaucrats. You might happen to drop a data key somewhere.
Steve Anderson of the OpenMedia.ca Exec Director and Michael Vaughan, the BC Civil Liberties Association Policy Director. We thank you both for your time tonight. We'll talk again about this, I'm sure.
Thanks for having me.
All right.